In the last few weeks, 4 things have happened at Diddley Squat that each look routine on the surface. A rebrand, a trade show, a customer complaint, and a newspaper article. But together, they show Lisa Hogan finishing the job we documented in part 1, while the people meant to be regulating this business are still arguing about car parks. If you haven't seen that first investigation, here's the short version. 5 separate loopholes deployed simultaneously by the person everyone assumed was just standing next to Jeremy Clarkson. The planning permission that survived the council. The sourcing restriction turned into a luxury brand signal. The product names that generated free press coverage worth more than any advertising budget. The Amazon Fresh deal that turned the company funding the television show into her national distribution network. And the EU passport that gives the brand structural access nobody else in British farming currently has. That was 18 months of investigation compressed into one video. This is what's happened since. Welcome back to Proper British Farming. If this channel has ever shown you something the mainstream press still hasn't caught up with, hit subscribe. We're building toward a number that matters to us, because every single one of you watching makes it harder for stories like this to stay invisible. Let's start with the rebrand. Because on the surface, this is the most boring possible story. A farm shop updates its packaging. Diddley Squat closed for 8 days at the end of March and reopened under a new identity called For Farm's Sake. Not a new product line, not a seasonal refresh. A rallying cry. The brand now carries a cockerel logo, pitchfork in hand, positioned explicitly as a stamp of approval. A signal that the money you spend at that till goes back to the people who actually grew what you're buying. On its own, that looks like feel-good marketing. Here's why it's not. Go back to what Clarkson said in Season 5, the line we flagged at the end of Part 1. Most farms don't have a television show keeping them going. He said it himself on the world's largest streaming platform. The land does not pay. The economics do not work without the entertainment money sitting on top of it. A brand identity built around being entertaining, built around one man's personality, has an obvious weakness. It needs that man. It needs the show to keep getting commission. If you've ever watched a charismatic founder carry a business on their shoulders, you already know how fragile that model is. For Farm's Sake is not that brand. For Farm's Sake is a cause. It's positioned around British farming broadly, around the figures the industry's own research has been published, the kind of numbers that should genuinely alarm anyone who cares about where this country's food comes from. According to a widely cited 2025 industry report, over half of British farmers have considered leaving the sector entirely in the past year, citing financial strain. Close to all of them expect family-run farms to keep declining over the next decade, if nothing changes. Read that statistic again, then look at what For Farm's Sake actually says on the label. It positions Diddley Squat not as a farm shop that happens to be entertaining, but as a customer's way of doing something about exactly that crisis, one purchase at a time. Those are values a shopper can buy into, regardless of whether Clarkson is healthy, available, or even still making television next year. That's not a packaging refresh. That's an insurance policy dressed up as a logo change. If the show ends tomorrow, the candle named after Clarkson's anatomy stops being funny eventually. A mission statement about supporting British farmers does not expire. Lisa Hogan has just built the version of this brand that survives Clarkson entirely. And she built it 18 months after we told you that's exactly what the product range was already quietly doing. Now notice what's been quietly reinforcing that exact message in the background, completely independent of the farm shop itself. The Hawkstone Farmers Choir, the group we've already covered on this channel, has continued writing original material specifically for pubs that serve British farmed beer and cider. That is not a random coincidence sitting next to a rebrand built around supporting British farming. It is the same message delivered through 2 completely different channels, reinforcing each other without either one needing to credit the other. A shopper sees the cockerel logo and the For Farm's Sake tagline on a jar of honey. A pub goer hears a choir made of actual agricultural workers singing about exactly the same cause. Neither audience necessarily realizes they're experiencing the same brand strategy twice. That isn't accidental overlap. It's a coordinated cultural footprint that no single product launch could buy on its own. Right? Here's the second development. This one is structural in a way that should worry every farm shop in the Cotswolds that's been quietly competing with Diddley Squat for foot traffic. In June, Diddley Squat hosted cereals for the first time.